Hey everybody, how's it going? Guys, my name is Miles Wood-Boyer, and hey, thank you, first things first, for being here. It's a big deal to me that you guys are showing up. And so let me give you like a quick preface before we really dig into what's in my gear bag and a few tips and tricks for destination photographers. Y'all, if you've found this channel, it's a big deal for me for you to understand that this is not the only place that we're creating content. Y'all, we're over on the Photographic Collective podcast every week, interviewing with some of the world's best and most brilliant photographers and people in the photo industry, talking about gear as well as just tips and tricks and business ideas. Also, the Photographic Collective Facebook group is just exploding. And then, of course, you can find me on all social media networks, but especially over on Instagram at Miles Wood-Boyer. Let's get into it, guys. Okay, so hey, let me preface all of what I'm about to say by explaining a few things. So I'm a destination wedding photographer, but I've also been shooting weddings around the Arkansas area for about 15 years now. I actually fly out here in a few hours to the 43rd state that I have shot in. It'll be my first wedding that I've ever shot in Arizona, and I'm kind of excited about that. But guys, after 42 states and 16 countries, over 500 weddings, I can tell you guys, I have kind of gotten down this travel thing to a T. But here's my blanket statement. I love the techie stuff. I love the nerdy stuff. And I actually love finding ways for me to travel with as much as I can without weighing myself down so that I'm not limited when I'm shooting. I know a lot of photographers will tell everybody that the best thing you can do is just travel with like 2 cameras, 2 lenses, and make it work. And that's just not the way that I like to work. In fact, I love being on location with a lot of options. So I'm gonna walk you through what's in my destination kit. There's a lot of gear, and so I'm gonna move really quickly. I'm also probably going to blog about this in the next week or so, just so that we have a kind of longer form. But in the show notes at the bottom of the page here, you'll be able to see a list of all the gear that I take with me, as well as the cases and a few other little quick tips and tricks. So follow along with that. Guys, if you haven't subscribed yet to this channel, there's gonna be a lot more of this stuff come out. And so it would mean a lot to me to see you do that. Let's start with cameras. Everybody always asks me that question, right? Like, what is the camera that you shoot? Now, it's no surprise, I've got the Fujifilm t-shirt on. I'm a Fujifilm ambassador and a part of their ex-photographer team. I only shoot Fujifilm cameras, and not because they pay me to say that. I actually chose Fujifilm a long time before they even knew who I was. They are the most tech advanced, most incredible group of people, and also the most fun cameras that I've ever had the opportunity to shoot. And I get to now say that a lot of the people way high up on the ladder there are really close friends of mine. So always happy to support them. And so let's start with the big thing then. This is the big camera. This is the GFX100. Guys, this thing is an absolute mammoth. It's a beast of a camera, 102 megapixel, large format digital sensor, and an autofocus that absolutely rivals even the fastest full frame cameras. Only the sensor is 1.7 times bigger, larger, fuller than full frame. This thing is a beast. If you haven't ever tried a large format digital camera, get your hands on one. It's a really cool experience. It'll totally change the way that you see light. Just being able to shoot 102 megapixels means that I have recovery of like 6+ stops in post, which is nuts, like crazy talk nuts. But what's really cool is that it also has an incredible, because of the sensor size, an incredible low light performance. Now, we're not talking low light that's going to rival some of the like 12 megapixel full frame, that company that we won't comment on cameras, but we are talking high 4,000, 5,000 ISO with very little grain. And guys, I deliver up to 8,000 ISO to my clients all the time. Get your hands on one of these. Just rent one. I promise it's a gateway drug. All right, so second camera, and I will tell you this. I always travel with 3 cameras. The reason for that is because I always shoot 2 cameras. And so I know a lot of photographers that say you need to have a camera and a backup camera. Well, often when I'm traveling, I'm not an elopement photographer. And so I do shoot elopements and sometimes small weddings. And sometimes we're in Iceland or in Canada hiking around and doing that thing where I can take maybe slightly more risk. But most of the weddings that I'm traveling into, you guys, are full scale 100, 200, 300, 500 person weddings. And often, if I'm not taking a team with me, I am the only person there that knows what the heck I'm doing with a camera. So if I need to shoot 2 cameras, I need to have a backup, right? So this is camera number 2, but at any given time, it's also probably camera number 1. It's my favorite camera to shoot. This is the GFX100S, exact same camera, sensor, tech information, blah, 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 all the good stuff as the GFX100, but in a really tiny body. And it allows you to be a little sneakier, a little bit more quiet, a little bit more nonchalant while you shoot, as well as just saves your arm strength throughout the day. Incredible camera, only 1 battery and no vertical grip, actually, obviously, but honestly, guys, like, seriously, this right here, this is the greatest thing to have happened to digital cameras probably in the last 10 years, in my opinion. Get your hands on one of these, and like I said, just rent one. Just rent one if you can't afford. I know they're expensive, but just rent one. Okay, camera number 2, GFX100S. Camera number 3, and I'm sorry that I keep having to reach down here in my bag. I'll show you why in a minute, though. Camera number 3 is the Fujifilm X-t4. This thing is the machine gun. This is the, and look how tiny it is. You guys, I don't know offhand. Hold on, let me grab my phone and show you so that you have some context here. Alongside an iPhone, look at the size of that camera. It's tiny. Now, I actually do have a vertical grip for this. When I'm not shooting destination, I shoot it with a vertical grip. But when I'm traveling, I'm just trying to keep everything as small as possible so it packs down easily. This is the reception camera. It's an incredible, absolutely incredible 25 megapixel crop sensor camera. It is fast. The color science is unbelievable. You video tech nerds out there, it has some of the best IBIS that has ever been thrown into a camera. The thing is just sweet. It's super reliable. In fact, a few of, in my opinion, probably the top wedding photographers in the world use this as their primary camera. I'm just a little extra, so I really like that medium format look. But this is the start for that. All right. So let's talk glass. Everybody loves lenses. So we're gonna, I'm gonna dig down here and grab all of the glass that I travel with, and it is a lot. So we're gonna start with the GF lenses. I always take a few lenses with me for a lot of options, and realistically more than I need. But like I said, I like to have the fun of it all. All right, so let's start with the workhorse. The lens that gets the most work out of my camera, whether I'm on destination, whether I'm traveling, or I'm at home, hands down, is the GF 63mm 2.8. This is a, for you full frame equivalent, 35mm neaters. This is a 50mm lens equivalent, roughly. It is fast. It's capable. If you've never seen a 50mm equivalent shot on a 4x5 sensor, 4x5 ratio, like a medium format sensor, you're missing out. This lens was created. It perfected in that size of a sensor, and it is absolute beauty. This thing, get it first. That's the number one thing to grab. The second lens that I carry with me, and from this point on, in no particular order, though I'll save my favorite for last, and then I'll explain why, is the 45mm 2.8. Equivalent, guys, is about a 35mm lens. Great, just all around lens. It doesn't actually get a ton of work from me, but I do love it. And here's why. If I'm going to go wide, I like to go wide. So this is the 30mm f3.5. This is like a 24mm equivalent. This is my favorite lens for tight spaces. It's also a great dance floor lens. Just allows me to be really nimble and really quick. Those of you guys that are doing the math here and wondering about medium format and large format cameras, and you're saying like, hey, 3.5, 2.8, all of those don't sound fast enough for me. Do a little research on that. Actually, the reality is that when you're doing the equivalents, right, when you take a 63mm and you stop it down and now you create the equivalent that it's a 50, you do the same thing with an aperture ring. The equivalence is that the light opens up. Also, because you've got a larger sensor, you've got huge mounts on the back of your lenses, massive mounts that just let a lot more light in. You'd be surprised how fast a 2.8 really is on a large format camera. All right, the portrait lens, the big beast, is 110mm f2. This thing is incredible. I will say this. Let me back up for 2 seconds and say this. I've heard of a lot of photographers that really love the off-brand, the third-party lenses for Fujifilm cameras. I've only ever shot one, and guys, it wasn't a fantastic experience for me. I think it's fair to point out, and probably important, honestly, to point out that what Fujifilm does that is just so unique to the rest of the market in general is that they design their color science first. They just perfect color. And so the cameras are made to capture these rich, remarkable, non-sterile, full of character color profiles. And alongside that, these lenses are meant to capture it. They're meant to expose those colors to the sensor. And so I think it's important to stick with the same brand as you do your camera. I realize they're more expensive. Again, guys, professionals, if you're making money with your gear and you are not investing back into your own company, you're already dead in the water. And if you want more information on how to rent lenses from yourself so that you are constantly growing a cache of money so that you can reinvest in new equipment, just drop me a comment. I would love to walk you through that. That's a very normal thing for production companies to do. And it's something that you should already be doing, whether you have all the gear that you want or not. All right, the last GF lens that I travel with, this thing is absolutely the most beautiful piece of glass I've ever put on a camera. This is the 80mm f1.7 GF lens. It is just magic. I honestly don't know how Fujifilm perfected a lens quite like this. Even at 1.7, there's no chromatic aberration. It is tack sharp and it is so reliable. If I had one qualm with it, one ridiculous, silly little qualm, it's that it's not very fast to focus. But with a 1.7mm aperture, I mean, guys, it kind of has to be a little bit slow. So like curb your expectations there, but worth every piece of the buttery goodness that happens in the background when you shoot this lens. It is, it's incredible. Actually, over on the shelf over here, in my non-travel kit, I have an X series 200mm f2 lens, which is sick, like an unbelievable lens. However, I actually think the fall off is more pleasing and more natural and more beautiful in this than I do in that one. And I'm not a huge bokeh nerd anyway, if I'm honest. I actually kind of like to be able to see backgrounds. I think we put people in front of backgrounds for a reason, right? All right, so that walks you through the lenses, the glass that I'm taking for the GF series. Now, if you were paying attention, you may have noticed or maybe didn't, and so I'm going to tell you right now. Obviously, the X series camera that I carry with me, the X-T4, is a whole different size of sensor, which means I've got to take a whole different kit of lenses for that camera. There's a reason for that as well. All of those lenses are tiny. They are absolutely tiny. So the 18mm 1.4, this is my dance floor workhorse. This thing gets hammered. Oh my gosh, thousands and thousands and thousands of photos through this thing at 1.4 every week. If anything ever happened to this lens, I would probably cry. I also always carry with me a 35mm f2. That's an X series lens. Incredible little camera. Incredible little lens that just teeny. So if I ever need to be kind of sneaky and just sort of float around, if I ever feel like as the photographer, I'm getting too much attention for being the photographer, this is the lens I put on and I just sort of start to sneak around. Another video on that coming soon, but I will tell you this. If you're not investing in yourself as a photographer, looking and acting and being integrated into a wedding party more and more like a guest in every single wedding, you're missing out on the proximity and the access that that could give you. So if I'm at a black tie wedding, I'm in a tuxedo all day, loafers all day. I realize photographers, everybody's groaning and griping, but guys, if the groomsmen can do it, we can do it, and we're getting paid to be there. So step up your brand game. A part of that is making sure that the gear that you're shooting is really intentional and that you're not begging for attention with this giant machine gun of a camera sitting in the back of the church on burst, distracting everybody and seeing if you can take 642 of the exact same images over and over and over again. Like, let's be brighter and let's be bolder and let's get better. Okay. Only other lens that I carry is the macro. Now, guys, I'll be full disclosure here. I kind of hate that I carry this lens with me. I really love the GF, the large format sensor macro lens. I've just never invested in it. It's kind of expensive, and it's a kind of a niche lens. I shoot literally 2 photos at every wedding with a macro lens, and so carrying this big thing around with me is a little bit frustrating. Fortunately, ring shots are becoming less and less important in like every single wedding that I shoot. And so I'm giving it about a year, and I bet this thing ends up on the shelf. For destination weddings, it takes up a whole slot in my bag, and I don't love that. But it is sort of what it is. Okay, so that is a quick overflow of all of the lenses and cameras that I'm shooting. Obviously, lots of extra batteries going with me, and things that are very important, like triggers, receivers, all of that type of stuff, because even though I'm shooting destinations, lighting is still very important. So I will post a link to this below, because way too hard for me to show this in a video like this. But I found some travel stands from a company called Photodiox. And by the way, all the lighting that you're seeing on me right now is from Photodiox as well. Just a really cool company. Jeff, if you ever listen to this video, hey man, thank you so much for taking care of me. It's really cool to work with you. Photodiox makes these travel stands that fold backwards on themselves. And so an 8-foot stand is about, I don't know, let's call it 28 to 30 inches when they're fully compressed. And they come in this cool little carry bag, which makes my life a little bit easier because they can go in my check bag, and they're light and easy to maneuver. And even though an 8-foot lens isn't exactly ideal, I usually make it work. Okay, so lighting. This guy right here, this bag beast right here. Full disclosure, I don't actually work firsthand in like a committed basis with any flash company. And so I am doing, at any given moment, I've done some different campaigns with different light companies, but I don't have a sponsorship. And so I've just sort of invested in what makes the most sense for my company. And these Godox AD200 Pros are just dance floor killers. Like, this thing can go all night long as fast as I need it to go. It never dies, never runs out of battery. Hey, pro tip right here. Anytime you're traveling, pop your lithium ion batteries out and store them separate from your camera equipment. And here's why. You know, when you're checking in and they always ask you if you have a lithium ion battery on you, and you typically say no, right? The reason for that is because they can swell and become under pressure, especially in an airplane. And the last thing that you want is for your battery to blow up or catch on fire or start smoking or even swell inside a hard case that's up above you. And by the time you find out about it, hopefully A, the plane hasn't gone down, but B, all of your camera equipment is not ruined on your way en route to a wedding. So pop those batteries out, all of them. Every lithium ion battery goes in my backpack separately, just in like a little Ziploc bag. I'm sure there's probably a safer way to do that, but I've yet to find it. Always make sure you have extra batteries. So I travel with 2 of these things. They're big and clunky, but they're worth it. And then I travel with 2 of these things. This is just the little TT600. It's not my favorite flash ever. In fact, if I'm honest, the ProPhoto A10 is the flash that I really prefer to travel with. But the neat things about these Godox cameras flashes, is that they all communicate with each other without the need of triggers. And so I can basically take one trigger as a uh-oh situation with me. But as long as I have one of these on and it's the master, it will trigger everything else for me. And then I just have to have about 142,000 of those. And hopefully the hole in the ozone layer above me doesn't hold a grudge. I'm trying really hard to get to everything being rechargeable. Okay. You guys, this is the sort of the next big step then, is to talk about how the heck I pack all this stuff down. Because if you're paying attention, you probably realize that there's a lot of equipment in here, right? One more little tidbit here. This elephant case, I'm going to open this up and so I can kind of show it to you here. This elephant case carries all of my memory cards. and it vertically stacks them, which is so handy in 2 rows. So I have 1 row that is my slot A, 1 row that's my slot B. I'm always and only always shooting cameras with dual cards in it, especially when traveling, and then immediately getting back to my hotel or Airbnb and backing up on SSD drives. I go through about 10 million of these things a year. They're a lot cheaper than a lawsuit. That's free advice right there. All right, let's talk about how we pack these things down, okay? There is the coolest hard case that I've ever found. It's from a company called SKB, and I'm gonna show you why it is so cool. This thing weighs about, geez. This thing weighs about 100 pounds right now. It has everything that I just showed you, with the exception of the flashes that go in my backpack in it. And it is a standard carry-on size, which means it can go comfortably underneath the seat in front of me. If it has to, it'll almost always go above me in the plane. You know where it will never go, ever go, is underneath the plane. And here's why. Every year, I have a couple of flight attendants that decide to pick that fight and say that I need to plane side it, or I need to bag check it. Guys, if you've ever traveled with your equipment and you've put it underneath, you know that you feel like you're playing roulette. You spend a 2 or 3 or 10-hour flight with your stomach in your throat. So inside that hard case, everything that I just showed you is in this. Oof, that's heavy. It just lifts out of that hard case, and you have this tiny little, there's no way anybody would stop me from putting it on a plane bag, but it has everything inside it. Guys, you know what I'm going to do is I actually will post a photo at the end of this video of that case completely filled, so you can see how I pack it all down. Really cool process though. Everything is safe in there. Everything is padded. There's also a few other accessories and stuff in there, like the card cases, the little, card cases that I carry, the little waterproof ones for when cards get filled up. Let me show you those. That is this handy little guy. It's just a little waterproof thing that allows me to say, like, okay, these are shot cards. I always have a handful of them around. They're orange. They're hard to miss. They're shot cards. So 1 copy goes back in my bag and 1 copy goes in my pocket until the end of the event. So I make sure that I kind of diversify. If anybody decides to steal my stuff, at least they don't steal the photos. Again, it's a lot cheaper than a lawsuit. A few other quick tips. I always have my MacBook Pro on me so I can do backups. I've yet to find, even like the Narbox system, I've yet to find a camera backup system that doesn't require a computer that can do it fast enough for me. So this thing right here, this little beauty, is a USB 3 6-slot card reader. It goes super lightning fast, especially into those SSD drives. Always make sure that I have 2 pairs, because I'm extra like that. 2 pairs of headphones. The worst thing that can happen to me, and I'm not kidding when I say this, is to be on a plane and have to listen to the guy next to me choke and cough and hack, and me wondering if I'm getting COVID right in that moment. So headphones with noise canceling are important. I'm always carrying this little guy with me as well. This little DJI Osmo Mini, just in case something awesome happens to me and I need to film it. It doesn't happen that often, but I love it anyway. And it's super small. And then obviously an iPad and all that good stuff. So guys, whoa, I feel like we just blurred through this whole thing, or maybe it's gone on forever and you have already clicked off. But that's an entire list of everything that I'm traveling with. Every piece of that equipment, literally everything that we just talked about, except for the light stands, goes on the plane with me. It's all in a simple rolling carry-on and a small backpack. The only things that then go underneath the plane are my holdfast moneymaker straps, because they're heavy and clunky and just cumbersome to get around. My holdfast quiver bag that is super light and easy to fold up and roll into a check bag. And then my light stands. Everything else stays with me. And so if anything goes terribly wrong, at least I have my gear with me, right? Hey, if this has been helpful to you at all, if you have questions, if you have comments, as long as you're not trolling and looking for attention, hit me in those comments and like let me interact with you on this. I've been doing this for a long time. I have a lot of opinions and a lot of experience about why I carry all that I do. And please understand, guys, that there's trial and error to all of this. None of this equipment is absolutely necessary, but I'd love to talk you through, more intimately, whether in a DM or an email, why I've chosen every piece of this equipment to go with me on trips. Okay. Hey, my name is Miles Boyer. Thank you guys so much for taking a few minutes to listen to this and kind of chime in. Y'all, if I can do anything for you in the future, just holler at me, and I'm sure I will be back with another one of these videos very soon.